Hello, and welcome to the final days of 21 Days to Solstice. I'm Coleen, related Renee, and I'm so happy to welcome you here as we sit in the anticipation of the coming of the growing sun and look into ourselves and look at that inner light that wants to have a little more growth. If you can imagine in ancient times before we had artificial lights, that as the days grew long, the nights, grew longer and longer, and the days were shorter, and there was so little light. And in those days, without the light, you went indoors, and you're just kind of like sitting around with each other. And you know how even if you really, really like each other, if you're kind of trapped inside indoors for a really long time, how things sort of get stale and a little tense maybe, or just a little, you just want to get out somehow. And so the anticipation of being able to get out someday in the long distant spring. And here we are still as the days are getting darker. And even though we might know that on the solstice the sun is reborn and begins to grow, there isn't that, we don't feel it necessarily in our bones, not usually until early February. So just, imagine, if you will, how that long winter that's ahead of you still, the days are getting darker and things are getting colder and the stories are getting drier. You need a break. You need a celebration. And what better celebration than that solstice night, that marking of the time when you know from now on the days are going to get longer and longer, the night will get shorter, the light is growing. And they would have these festivals where they would they would bring light to encourage the sun to regrow. They'd light fires, they'd light any kind of candles or lanterns that they had, and just to encourage the sun to come back. And then they'd gather, and in those winter times, they occupied themselves making, maybe making pottery, but probably weaving, and using the resources that they have. And so it was a time for, making new clothes or making new tools, that sort of thing that you would do in the quiet of winter where you can't get out and about. And so a lot of the traditions that we have today of exchanging gifts naturally come from that, it's that mid-season. It's the beginning of the solstice, but it's the middle of the growing dark and the waning dark. And so it's sort of that high point. And there is that beautiful silence in there. But there's also that need to quiet and to go within, and that anticipation of the light coming again. Because we are people of the light. We are people of the light. We need it to survive as a species. So you might just spend a little time here in these last couple of days reflecting on what it might have been like before we have all the artificial lights, where we can extend our days and do all kinds of things that our ancestors may not have been able to do. Okay, I'm going to leave you with those thoughts to kind of ponder and hopefully leave you in some gratitude for some of the gifts that we do have today that our ancestors did not. So here we are in the countdown. Blessings to you. See you tomorrow.